I represent a company called Cook's Global Foods. We are a beverage business, and we are a global beverage business that owns several companies around the world. And Scarborough Fair is one of those businesses that we do own and have purchased a number of years ago. I'm just going to take you through a few different things. Hopefully that is working. Just a few serious bits. So this is a lot more serious than what obviously Jim was talking about. We'll look at the bit of the macro environment, a little bit of what's happening across some of the channels that we operate in New Zealand, who is driving growth within the marketplace itself, who's today's consumer is, and a little bit about the retail trends that are coming forward for 2019, and a little bit about Scarborough Fair and our journey that we've gone through over the years. I'll try to cut through this fairly quickly, and so if there is any questions, then people can answer those at the end of it. So what things do we look for in a company when we are looking around the world for businesses? And as you can see up here, New Zealand's in a pretty good position. Very good population growth, good consumer confidence, annual price index is relatively stable. We have good quarterly unemployment levels and a good annual GDP. So everything is sort of pointing in the right direction for New Zealand as a country versus the rest of the world, which is important for major companies coming to New Zealand and actually investing. And there's been lots of talks about, who's investing and how they're investing in the marketplace. So the big part that we deal in is New Zealand retail. And New Zealand retail, when you look at it, lots of different channels and lots of different things going on across all this. And it was great having the conversations out in the hallway there just about some of the different channels that people actually operate in and across New Zealand, because the thing about New Zealand is we have lots of little diverse businesses. We are 80% small businesses, and some of these channels can be quite daunting to actually go into and quite cost intensive. So cafes and restaurants, which we all love to visit, and we all love to sit down and have a lovely coffee or tea. That channel is actually growing quite considerably and has developed over the years from the good old days of just your basic Robert Harris coffee shop into some quite sophisticated stores and chains now. And if you go right the way down the bottom there, you can see supermarkets really dominate this whole channel piece. Over 30% share of that channel, and continue to grow quite consistently around that 3% mark year on year. And they're doing, they continue to do the basic job for most New Zealanders in terms of getting your everyday shop. But overall, great growth, 4.3% growth for the business for this channel. So that's looking pretty strong. These are the sort of outlets I'm going to talk mostly on. Your good old pack and saves, countdowns, your new worlds, and that side there. In this channel in New Zealand, and roughly split in terms of what share of the marketplace is, countdown accounts for over 40% of the marketplace, and foodstuffs account for over 55% of the marketplace, and the rest is pretty much other places like Huckleberries and Pharaohs and those sorts of smaller outlets around that, in terms of what we call mainstream grocery. So that's your big areas. When we start talking to grocers, one of the things that we always get is this line back when we do a product presentation to them. So product does not present with a significant point of difference to warrant inclusion in the core range, nor is it likely to outperform the brands currently in the current offering. And why does that come up quite a lot within this channel? Well, they have over 22,000 products that most supermarkets currently manage in their supermarkets. And so when someone comes up with a new idea and a great relevation for the marketplace, funnily enough, they don't like to let go of the products that they already have there until it's actually a proven seller. So on a little bit of a hiding to nothing to start until you've proven your sales, and then they might swap you out for something else in the marketplace. And that's pretty much where they start around that. So that's changing though as a model, and I want to take you just through some of the dynamics of these categories and what's sort of happening overall, because the New Zealand retail marketplace is actually a $93 billion marketplace. It's pretty huge. And we tend to lose the sight of actually the size of this this whole market and amongst all the other news. So you'll hear lots of bits and pieces talking about, you know, what our export is doing and that side there. Well, actually, there's a big market in New Zealand. So growing at 4.9%, packaged grocery, which represents the biggest part of the marketplace at $13 billion. We've got over-the-counter sort of pharmacy around that $600 million mark. Petrol and convenience is $1.3 billion. And then we have other areas like route and dairy and other pieces that sort of make up the other part of the marketplace. But you can see, you know, where this market sort of grows and develops from. And when we start to break that on down in terms of that packaged goods part, you can see quite clearly that food is where the bulk of the marketplace sits. So 68% of that marketplace around that. And non-food and general merchandise is at the lower end of that. And alcohol, which supermarkets love to get selling because it's all high margin for them, making up 11% of their turnover. So absolutely a really important category for those guys in terms of that. And all these categories are all going through their own significant changes as that sort of flows on through, and we'll go through some of those, what they look like as we move through this. But if you look at what's happening within these segments, and you look at that food category, what's driving this whole category, you can see this whole investment around, you know, things like ice cream is growing, carbonated beverages are still growing hugely in the marketplace, chilled drinks, things like yellow spreads, chocolates are on the growth, snack food is growing hugely. But interesting enough, on the other side of that, and things what we think are healthy within the marketplace, such as dried fruit, going backward, all being hauled backwards by things like, as people become more educated around sugars and flavoured milks and sort of even your basics like bread. I mean, it used to be the number one category in the marketplace. It's now going backwards. So the marketplace is a changing place for us as suppliers to it, and these are things that we keep a constant eye in terms of what's happening. Who are the key manufacturers within the marketplace? Interestingly enough, 25 suppliers to the marketplace make up 50% of the sales in this category and across the whole marketplace. And they're all showing relative signs of growth or decline across that. And when you look at that, Coca-Cola, you would be thinking with all of the talk around, you know, aspartame and sugar and drinks and that, you'd be going backwards as a player within the marketplace, but that is indeed not the case. They're actually still growing and growing very strongly as they start to redesign products that they bring to the marketplace. Major players that we had in the marketplace, and Heinz Waddies is one of those major players. It used to be a strong New Zealand business, and their business has undergone significant change over the years, and to their detriment in some ways around that. So they're going through a significant portion of change for them as a business. But you can see, you know, the likes of Lion growing very strongly, places like Mondelez still growing, Mars showing some significant growth in the marketplace. But those 25 players that you see up there really don't change year on year. They might have a bit of a shuffle around, but basically those companies pretty much dominate most of that category. And the reason that I put up that little piece earlier on about products and bringing products to the marketplace is because of this that we're seeing. The smaller players that are coming into the marketplace are actually the guys that are really adding value to categories. So what we're seeing is a lot of categories moving up and the products becoming more premium, and we'll talk about why that is, but the smaller players are the people that are bringing these to the marketplace, and primarily driven by the passion that they have for their products and their ability to change the marketplace as it needs to really quickly. Your big multinationals, and I've worked for many of those multinationals over the years, really struggle to change, and they tend to be well behind what the market change is actually doing. So those 25 manufacturers accounting for 49% of the sales up there, going at $100 million. But you can see down the other end there, the 21% of smaller manufacturers accounting for $180 million of growth in the marketplace. So it's not insignificant in terms of the value that they bring to the marketplace, which is great because now we're having some very different conversations with our retailers about some of the products that we bring to the marketplace and getting rid of some of the Me Too's in there as well. One of the drivers of that change in the marketplace is this consumer and millennials, and there's quite a number of you in this room right now. I tend to be in the next generation, but this generation accounts for 27% of the shopping basket within grocery. So it's important. It's a growth category. It's an area that's coming on forward. The generation under them, the iGens basically, are 18% of the category. So we need to be aware of the changes that they want to see within these markets too. The great thing for us is they consume more beverages per day, and Sarah and I had a great conversation about the fact that they will drink across coffees, teas, RTDs, and every other beverage within the category, whereas we tend to be a little bit more traditional in our drinking habits and maybe stick to one or two of those. But the thing that really drives these consumers is they really gravitate towards those brands that they can emotionally connect with. So it's very different from the original days when I was launching products into the marketplace, that I would bring a product and go, we think this is just a cool name, so we'll launch this product. These younger consumers tend to be more engaged with that product and that brand. So you have to be very authentic in terms of what the wider purpose is for the brand, because it's not just about what you do with it, it's actually what it lives and what it actually brings to the market. So that trust local, that more artisan, in terms of what that feel is. They love things like beautiful design, whereas design before used to be quite functional in terms of what it used to do. These millennials are quite obviously highly image conscious. The brand reflects their choices within the marketplace. Sustainability for them has to be baked in. So you can't just talk it, you can't just do it for one or two products within your range. Your entire business needs to be around that feature. Our grab and go generation, it is about convenience is king. And it is more important than ever in terms of the way you bring your products to the marketplace around that. They have high expectations around that out-of-home experience, and there's a real link between what happens out of home to what actually happens in the home for that consumer. Their key drivers, though, are still functionality and fair price. Personal well-being comes up number 2 in terms of that, so that social, that commitment, that link to the brand. But also that collective well-being, and this is about a consumer that actually thinks more about what is actually happening around them than what we would have traditionally done in our day. So historically, as a retailer, and if I put my retail hat on, the focus used to be last year about technologies and about enabling technologies. So we would track your phones, we would track your usage, we would track your purchases in a supermarket, we would profile you as an individual, and then we would basically target you with offers. And it still goes on today. So that is becoming an everyday trend. So you just will have to possibly just get used to that, because that's life, as we all get tracked through whatever we do. But this year's retail strategies are really starting to reflect other things that are happening within that, because retailers these days have to take note of what is happening around them. So things like that regulatory changes, the economic changes that are coming on through, and those social factors that are also impacting on our consumption. And so what used to be pretty much you will take what we put in front of you, now has really become more consumer-centric than what it ever used to be before. We always used to talk being consumer-centric, but it's now actually becoming more important to businesses to actually deliver. So we can no longer tell customers or consumers what's good for them. We need to listen to actually what they feel is important. And that's become a key driver for not only retailers, but also as suppliers bringing product to the marketplace as well. And so that's coming through globally in terms of that feedback. So we'll just talk about what sort of retail trends and our focus on delighting consumers is really looking for. And there's really 8 key trends that are pouring on through. The first one is, and as what we've seen, purpose-led brands. Obviously, many retail companies are trying to win trust and sales, because sales is obviously why they're in business, by prioritising people and purpose ahead of profit. And it's all got to dovetail together, so no longer is it just solely focused on the profit pitch around that. And so a lot of them do it through lots of different value experiences to actually get there. That sustainability piece is really coming through within the entire marketplace, and that transparency of what companies do as well. So again, it's not just good enough to say you're doing it, you actually have to live and breathe and do it around that. And we're seeing that in lots of different ways. Nike's marketing campaign, obviously coming to the marketplace and being quite open about that whole piece, but we're seeing the change in terms of consumer packaged goods as well through the marketplace. So companies like Mars pretty much live and breathe in this space as well. And there's lots of empirical data about that. So if we're bringing products to the marketplace, why is it so important? Well, this is one of the key reasons, and this is coming out of the UK and is quite reflective of the rest of the world in terms of that. 92% of UK millennials would choose to buy from a company committed to an ethical business practice. And it doesn't really make a hard choice when you walk into a supermarket, and if you tick off all those other boxes, that you've got a comparative price to other products within the marketplace, but there's a product that actually stands for something, then you're going to choose that product. It's a pretty easy picture to go with. And 80% plus rank the world, making the world a better place as a priority in their life. I think people now really are becoming more overburdened, I suppose, with the fact that we need to make change now. And actually there's ways as consumers we can actually help that. And so they're gravitating towards brands that live to that sort of vision around that too. 82% of UK millennials would strive to be employed by a company recognised for its commitment to business ethics. So again, in a world that is low in unemployment, and you're looking for the right people to align with, it's not just the companies that have to live it, it's the individuals that come to those companies too. And according to the Boston Consulting Group, half of the US millennials aged 18 to 24 and 38% of those aged 25 to 34 agree that brands that say something about who they are. So it is about your values as an individual being reflected in the company that you choose to go and work for. So it pretty much ties together from that. The 73% of UK millennials who would pay extra for sustainable offerings increased to 73% from 50%. The reality is, though, you still have to be price comparative when you're on the shelf in most situations. So authenticity is the key, and again from IRI, we see this in regards to people really do look beyond that surface around that. So your brand cannot just talk one part of that, it needs to talk total authenticities. And we see it in the US. People are spending an awful lot of money, $128 billion, just alone in sustainable, fast-moving consumer goods. So we're seeing a real change in the industry that companies are having to step up and bring more sustainable product to the marketplace. And that whole alignment between consumer and brand is a real key piece now for us across the marketplace. So what sort of brands bring this to the marketplace? And the reason that I've put fair trade up here is because 77% of New Zealand consumers actually recognise this brand. And that's pretty damned impressive for a brand that we know has been around for many years, but is really coming to the fore in the marketplace. It's well recognised for supporting developing countries, it's well recognised for providing better prices for farmers, and it's well recognised for the no child labour policy around that. So as a brand for consumers, when they walk into a supermarket, it gives them something that they can point to and actually very quickly identify with. So it's actually one of the brands that we've actually been using since we started back in 2004. And we know them have some very strong programs around people, around the planet and the environmental piece, profit to make sure that their farmers actually do enjoy the funds of what they work for. So absolutely that people piece around working conditional equal rights for women, the banning of discrimination, and that banning of child labour is a key piece around all of that. But the whole planet environment piece is really stepping up and becoming even bigger in what we're seeing. And this is really starting to flow through in many different ways around what we do. Interesting enough, one of the other retail pieces that's come out is this whole cannabis and cannabis oils, and bringing that into our everyday food and supply. Quite contentious, I must add, around our office because you have a number of traditionalists within the office and quite a few millennials who just accept it. And there's a lot of debate still going on within supermarket chains, within category managers, talking about how they're actually going to bring these types of products into the marketplace. So right now, a lot of it gets filed straight into the health area and buried down the back end of the store. But increasingly, because of the good things it can actually bring to consumers, it's actually now starting to actually get pulled out a little bit more. So, Australia was very quick on the uptake. They've deregulated and really have brought it in. You can see the types of products that are coming out into the marketplace, good whole stream products coming out into the fore. So, hemp is here to stay. It's just about what we do with it, really, in terms of that piece. Sugar. It's become the big bad name out there. And we've, since the late 60s, we've been educated, and we're now having to re-educate ourselves around sugar and the impact that it has. People are embracing health, they're embracing wellness, it's becoming a part of your everyday lifestyle, and therefore, absolutely, we need to change what we put in our food. And this is this whole piece back to healthier eating around that. Nestle are doing lots of research around it. They're trying to reformulate all their products in terms of what they're doing. Mars, Mondelez, all those guys are doing it too. But there is a few other things that have come on out of it as well, because it's changing categories. So shoppers are already looking for low or no sugar products around that. You can see there the growth of some of these categories over the years, or decline. Carbonated soft drinks, so that nice big red line there that went from 69% of total beverages sold down to 49%. But you saw earlier on the way that Coca-Cola as a business is still showing huge growth within the marketplace. And how they're doing that? Well, if you look at Kerry, obviously they're reformulating their products and they're bringing new products out into the marketplace with no sugar or low sugar around that. Good old Coca-Cola has undergone quite a few changes as a brand, back to your 0 days and no sugar and diet and everything else, and now you're full of splendour. So I'm not quite sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing around that. But we're also seeing other products coming into the marketplace as well. So we're seeing things like kombucha and other products coming to the marketplace and offering healthier or better options. But really it comes down to these key dynamics. People are living more responsibly, they're more conscious about what they're eating and putting into their bodies. 53% of us are looking to purchase, more natural products in terms of what we have. 51% of us want to purchase locally grown or made where possible, and 47% are trying to find those eco-friendly products out there as well. So there is quite a change coming through to this whole marketplace, and that is driving change for us around that. So we are being bombarded as we walk through our supermarkets, as we open up a magazine, 100% good stuff. It's all gluten-free, it's 100% natural, if you eat right, it's all natural, but there's a lot of blurring going on within some of this terminology as well, and that is still being worked through by our retailers. If we think about things that really change what we do, this is probably one of the key visual elements of that, and this is about consumers driving change within supermarkets. So the less plastic and less waste. We heard all the stories, we saw the pictures, they all did the rounds, there's seas of plastic out there. This has become just more of a social thing than a world thing now, and it's really taken a huge impact in terms of every day. We've seen that result flow on through in terms of actually a step forward. And that was about New Zealanders demanding that a retail change need to happen, and plastic bags is the most visible part of that. So there's nothing like the sight of a plastic bag blowing down the road to get people excited. And absolutely, it's one of those most visual elements that actually brought it to life, but it brought a change around, which is really great. The only problem is I now have a boot load of non-disposable bags because I keep on forgetting to take my recycle bag out. But the retailers are loving it. They've just made money out of us. But it has driven change, which is good, positive change. And this is about absolutely, as consumers, us standing together and going, this is just not good enough. As a business, as a company, you've been doing this, you need to change your practices. And this is about us making positive change driven by consumers around that. So, we expect companies to support these elements, and we will in turn support them. So, good old Kimberly Clark brought out their feminine hygiene piece around this. That brand absolutely just shot straight up in the marketplace, bigger than what they thought would actually happen with that change as well. So feminine hygiene, we just take it for granted, but actually here's a way that we can subtly make a difference within the marketplace as well. That war on waste is really intensifying. And we are innovating to make those changes. So Carlsberg got rid of their little plastic tabs around the top and just glued all their cans together. One way to deal with it. The only problem is you still got to deal with a little plastic tab. But it absolutely is changing the way we do things. And, what we're seeing in terms of other areas is the recycling piece, actually using and reusing our plastics to actually make plastic again, which makes perfect sense around that. So household packaging is a huge impact on what we do. So our consumption's changing. We used to use our good old plastic bags. Now we're having to buy bags. The great thing is you can now buy a proper compostable bag to put your rubbish in. So yes, you're still using a bag, but actually using something that can go into a landfill and will break down. So it's changing the category, it's changing the market, it's changing the way people think about it as well. We're seeing other companies around the world like Tesco are reusing their produce. So what used to be the old horrible looking produce, they're actually turning it into drinks. So you wouldn't buy it because it didn't look good in the produce department, but you'll buy it as a drink. And so all of that is changing the way that we use product and drive those as well. And even good old household segments performing really strongly, good strong growth within the marketplace, but we're seeing other products coming in like Seventh Generation and Living Green. But people are going back to basics as well. So some people are going back to using good old soap and water. Using things like vinegar to actually do cleaning with, or baking soda, which is actually a bloody good cleaning product. So yeah, sometimes it's good to take a step backwards, take a step forward as well. One of the big areas in every category in New Zealand, the end that is growing within the categories is the premium segments within those. And there's this real income disparity going on. Income hasn't grown as fast as probably what consumer good prices are. Your $100 shopping basket is now turned into a $300 shopping basket. And a lot of that has to do with the foods that we're actually buying now, because we are buying a lot more fresh and a lot less carbs. But the actual shop itself is actually more pricey than what it used to be, because we are demanding more from the products that we actually purchase. So there is a bit of a dichotomy going on within that. And no more so than within the coffee category, which is obviously one which is close to my heart, because we used to live in the powdered granulated end of this marketplace, and you can see there the unit growth there is mostly backward for most brands within this category. And the area that is going forward is actually freeze-dried. So what you used to pay in terms of a $6 product, you are now spending $10 to purchase instead, which I personally think is great as a coffee company. So keep on doing it. But there's other areas that's coming through as well. So things like this adult position treats coming through. I don't know if there's any other parents out there in our household. The kids get the Cadburys, the adults get the Whittakers. It's absolutely one of those, it's free, it's all good for them. They don't care. So this whole treats part of the marketplace is absolutely hugely growing across that, and Haagen-Dazs coming into New Zealand changed that profile within there, took a whole bay within the chillers, and overnight just became a big success around there. But good old chips are even going through a bit of a change as well. No longer is it good just to have your good old Edie chips. Again, it comes a bit of a division within the house, but hey, it's all there. And Whittaker's Artisan, definitely a favourite within the house. Other areas that's going to be important for retail is this experiential piece. Retailers are really needing to get much more engaged with their shoppers around that, and it is about bringing people back to the brick and mortar to do their shopping. There is a big move away from brick and mortar, and they are conscious that they need to keep this consumer coming in, because it isn't just the fact that you shop to a shopping list, it's the fact that you pick up a whole heap of other stuff that you didn't realise you needed as you go around when you're doing your shopping. So that's really important. So this in-store environment is changing quite considerably. Has anyone been out to the airport? They would have seen the Whittaker's shop out there, and so you're seeing these other brands that are popping up around to create environments. Things like Ben & Jerry's, obviously, great little shop that they run around that. But you have things like Pharaoh, creating great little Asian nights and opportunities to go and do a special shop, and we're seeing huge growth in this ethnic area of the marketplace too. At the other end of the marketplace is your good old Mars, obviously creating a bit of excitement back in the store. And we used to spend a lot of time creating ends, displays and stuff in stores. They all went through a stage where they took everything out, and now it's all coming back. So expect to get bombed more in your store. The augmented reality piece is a key piece as well for retailers, and if you start to look at what is happening within that as a supplier, what are we trying to do to create excitement for our consumers? So packaging that even now is designed to be Instagram friendly, because everyone wants to take a photograph of something that's really cool and be pictured with drinking it or doing something with it. And absolutely that's why you're starting to see these sorts of products being brought to the marketplace as well. So for the States, $158 million in water, would you believe? So there's a huge opportunity out there to do the basics right. But in New Zealand, what's been happening, and we were always a fairly slow starter to online, not so much now. It's really starting to explode. And the reason it's starting to explode is in grocery, we only had Countdown online. Foodstuffs didn't have their online offering sorted out. It's taken them 10 years to catch up there. So iShop's only coming on board in some areas. But you can see here that supermarkets, although supermarkets accounts for over 30% of our retail shop online, it is far less than that. And yeah, we've got a huge opportunity to grow this category. But as you can see there, supermarkets growing at over 30%. It's really starting to get its traction around that because people do want to simply put an order in and I'll pick it up on the way home. I don't have to go in the store and it's easy. And that's the key factor around it, is ease of shopping around that. And we're seeing it across many different formats around that. So we're consistently seeing this around the shop online, the home deliver. So Countdown with their home delivery part is really driving that part there. Click and collects. You can go to JB Hi-Fi now and put your order in and just go in and pick it up. The shop online through mobile apps. BP app is a great one. You don't even have to go into your BP to pay for your gas now. You just bowl on up and away you go. So absolutely there's this huge growth around that, but it's also other opportunities that are coming out and through, such as things like Backbox and all those home eat opportunities as well that are coming through in terms of that shopping too. So at least you know what you're getting for the week in terms of a meal. Strategic partnerships is going to be one that we will watch with interest, I suppose, around this. And we're seeing, this retail upheaval and this blurring of what we think is grocery and non-grocery opportunities. And increasingly, the warehouses are probably a prime example of this for New Zealand, is that they tried to integrate grocery into certain stores across New Zealand. Back in the day, it didn't work for them very well. It's back in 2008. It's probably going to be another opportunity for them. So I would suppose watch this space because we're seeing it overseas. Kroger, selling grocery and branded sections of Walgreens stores to give consumers that whole variety and convenience. So it will change here as well. It will come. So it's definitely something to look out for. So that statement there, your product does not present with a significant point of difference to warrant inclusion in the core range, nor is it likely to outperform the current brands and the current offering. If you're a small supplier going to the marketplace, I would take that one chart in that shows where the growth is coming from in the marketplace and start to have that conversation about actually who is driving sales within the food grocery marketplace. So that's just a bit of a taste of some of the information and stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We actually every month get a deck of information that we purchase from our retailers. We're very fortunate in New Zealand. We have a very open marketplace and our retailers share a lot of data with us. So it is very useful. I will just talk a little bit about Scarborough Fair. And Scarborough Fair as a brand has been around for many years. It was actually launched in 2004 as a brand. And Sarah Scarborough was the instigator of that. And Sarah actually still trips around the world now. We were talking, she's in Morocco right now doing some tea ceremonies. But she's absolutely passionate about this brand. And she first brought it to the marketplace in 2004 with more of a mainstream feel to it. But mainstream around quality, fair trade certified, and that whole positioning around mainstream product at mainstream price being the key piece. Now that's back in 2004, and we're just seeing the data now about where this millennial consumer's thinking right now. Absolutely, Sarah's well ahead of her time in terms of that. So it just goes to prove that you can be ahead of the game around that. The business has gone through several changes over the years. Sarah sold it a couple of times. Cook's purchased it in 2013, and it is still a unique brand, but with sustainability baked in, and that has stayed the same all of those years and through it. So what is Scarborough Fair? High quality, sustainable tea, fair trade certified, everything in terms of what that is. We're organic certified green teas. We're very eco in terms of the design. Very loyal customer base. We can't change a thing without people knowing about it. And absolutely really devoted to it, which is superb when you have a brand that's in that. The only issue that we have around that is the consumer has moved along since that time. So our consumers are now that little bit older, and the opportunity for us is, what do we do moving forward? So the first opportunity that we saw was in the fresh coffee marketplace. When Sarah first launched her brand into the marketplace, the fresh coffee marketplace was only valued at about $20 million. It's now a $100 million marketplace. We have capsules in the marketplace that are growing 30% year on year, so absolutely driving growth within that. Our instant coffee, again, was just a powdered basic coffee. So again, that trend has changed. It's now into freeze-dried coffee, so much more premium in terms of the offering is. And if we go back to what the heart of our brand is, it's about bringing premium product to the marketplace. And our tea range still stays as Scarborough Fair, because absolutely Scarborough Fair is the heart of what actually started the brand. So what do the brands all stand for, and what are they all about? Well, Grounded is actually very much crafted around that coffee consumer. And I'm afraid to say, as coffee drinkers, we are actually quite coffee snobs. We don't want to have a brand that stands across multiple categories. It just doesn't work that way. So we like to have something that is actually baked in. It is about sustainability, and this brand does that. It's a responsible coffee brand. Premium quality, fast-growing formats, plunger, beans, espresso, capsules. Very much that artisan design, very much about modern flavours, because flavour profiles have changed. We are climate neutral. We do a lot of tree planting around the world. We're fair trade, we're organic. We have a return and recycle program, so people can return all of their packaging to us, and we will turn it back into seats and chairs and other stuff. And we have another program which is buy one, plant one, which absolutely, for every pack of product we sell, we actually plant a tree somewhere in the world. So Grounded is very much living to the sustainability ethos around this, and we give back as a brand as much as what we sell to consumers, and that's the key piece around this brand. So it lives and breathes and delivers all of those key elements around it, not one or two things in the brand. The other piece for us is Blended. Blended is a instant freeze-dried coffee. And this really came around from that need to change to something a little bit different. So it is about shaking up this category. This product is only just launching now. So we have just been to the marketplace and really excited about what's coming forward. So really good response, not just solely in the grocery area, but actually in other areas like office and those ends of the marketplace. So as you can see, it is a very much more modern design than other products that are currently sitting out on our shelves. The buy one, plant one program, home compostable packaging, and we've done it particularly around the home compostable because we want people to feel that they can just chuck this in their compost bin at home. It will break down, including the zipper, and no impact on the environment at all. Coffee roaster style and great taste, intrinsically part of it all. So buy one, plant one. Every pack sold, we plant a tree. This Grounded brand was the first one around this, so this has already planted over 10,000 trees. We work through two partners, Trees for Survival in New Zealand. We work with schools and children, and they plant seedlings and basically grow trees, and then we go and have planting days. And Trees for the Future, which is about actually giving back to farmers to actually teach them how to farm again and providing those opportunities to that, as well as our coffee growers as well. So we have our zero return waste program, and any coffee product can be sent back to us, and we recycle all that packaging. And moving on from there, so what's mostly important to today's consumer? Cool. Number one, good taste, good for my wallet. Number two, good for me, good to save time, so convenience is king. And number three, it's good for everybody. So increasingly, we need to think about all those factors when we're bringing a product to the marketplace. And key considerations for us, wellness is now mainstream, so you need to think about that in terms of the way you bring products to the marketplace. That dichotomy of the human behaviour, selectarianism, so healthy versus indulgence. We all love to have our chocolates, but we like to be healthy with it as well. The multi-cultural food piece, Mexican food is just going off hugely, is probably the prime example around that, but Asian infusions. And as a brand, becoming intrinsically linked to that shopper lifestyle. And that's a key part you need to deliver around that. But we need to continue to drive for that personalised shopper insight. So what is each consumer looking for? But be agile and be local. That's me.